Because is form emptiness? No. Is emptiness form? No. Right? Okay. So why? We need to understand that first, okay? Is form emptiness? Right? No. If form were emptiness, then, you see, it's like this, we say this. We realize form directly with our own eyes. So if form was emptiness, as it was written on the page, then we, ordinary beings, would realize emptiness with our eyes, which means we realize emptiness directly. And who realizes emptiness directly? Only Arya beings, right? Okay? So that is the main reason why we can't say form is emptiness, right? Because it also says, if one realizes emptiness, then directly one is an Arya being. But also, if one realizes emptiness, then one can realize emptiness on all phenomena, right? That would, just have kind of absurd consequences. Now, is emptiness form? Also no. Why not? Same reason, right? And form appears to the eye consciousness, is directly realized by the unconsciousness of an ordinary being, whereas emptiness is not. Okay? So we then have to kind of understand what is then meant by these words. Okay? So, in my opinion, the words of the commentary themselves let's just put that aside for now. Okay? So one easy way to do it is, form is emptiness. You can say, form is emptiness, emptiness is form. Okay? So form, actually in Tibetan it's zuk tongpao. Tongpa ni zukso. You understand? Zuk tongpa. O is like a how do you say? Period. Okay? So it's zuk tongpa o, tongpa ni zukso. So actually, I think it should be form is empty, emptiness is form. What does it say in the translation? Does it say form is emptiness?
Yeah, form is empty.
Yeah, it says form is empty, emptiness is form.
Okay, good. In which?
In the Golden Prayer book.
Okay, good. Because in this it says, what was it? Doesn't it say form is emptiness?
Empty.
See, in the commentary it says form is emptiness. Emptiness is form. I don't like that. Form is empty. Emptiness is form. So, form is empty of inherent existence. Then, fine, no problem. And then, how I would say is, emptiness is the... Emptiness is the ultimate nature of form. But I wanted to read another commentary just on that passage in this great book, the Heart Sutra Explained. Okay, by the Indian master Jnana Mitra. Jnana. Form is a word that conventionally designates the form that is seen and conceived by those with mistaken minds who have not understood the nature of emptiness. Okay, fine. Regarding emptiness, because emptiness is the nature of form, form is without characteristic and unobservable in the past, and without characteristic and is without characteristic and unobservable in the present and the future. So what that means is, without characteristic, again, we have to keep supplying the extra word inherent or independent. Form does have characteristic, right? But those characteristics aren't inherent. Therefore, since it does not abide anywhere or in anything, the sutra says emptiness. Again, therefore, since form does not abide anywhere inherently or in anything inherently, the sutra says emptiness. Emptiness as form conventionally designates with words that even emptiness has an unobservable nature like form. Because it does not abide apart from that form, emptiness is form. Okay? So, I think what this is getting at is this nature of, one entity, different natures. Okay? So, since you can't talk about an emptiness apart from a basis of emptiness, right? Then, and you can't talk about a basis of emptiness without having its ultimate nature, its lack of inherent existence, on the same entity, right? Then, those two, form is emptiness, emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form, form is also not other than emptiness. Okay? Okay. Regarding emptiness is not other than form, form is not other than emptiness, that very thing which is form is the inexpressible emptiness. When form is abandoned, emptiness is not to be found. Means, if you don't have a form, you can't find the emptiness of that form. Therefore it is said that emptiness is not other than form. That very thing which is the inexpressible emptiness does not exist inherently, and is not found apart from that which is conventionally designated with the word form. Therefore it is said that form is not other than emptiness. Okay? Alright. Okay. So now, the next point that I was not very clear about, which I want my do-over on, is this the Chitta Marcha system. Okay. Okay. So in the second turning of the wheel of Dharma, the Buddha taught that all phenomena are entity-less. He taught the entity-lessness of all phenomena. Okay. Moni mepa. Okay. So then in the third turning of the wheel of Dharma, there's one Bodhisattva, Paramartha Samudgata, okay, who then asks the Buddha, hey, wait a minute, in the first turning of the wheel of Dharma, you taught that all phenomena have entity-ness. In the second, you taught the entity-lessness of all phenomena. So what did you mean when you said these various statements? And the Buddha then says, it was in consideration of the three natures that I made those pronouncements. Okay? So then the entity in the entity-lessness differs according to the three natures. Okay? So what are the three natures?
Other power of nature.
Yeah. Other power of nature,
Thoroughly established.
thoroughly established nature, and thoroughly imputed nature. Okay? So let me just give you guys the... Okay. In this Sutra Unraveling of Thought, the Buddha says, Paramartha Samudgata. thinking of the three non-natures of phenomena, character non-nature, production non-nature, and ultimate non-nature, I taught in the middle wheel of Dharma that all phenomena are natureless. Okay?
What's the third one, Venerable? Character, production,
Ultimate. Ultimate non-nature. Okay? So then, character non-nature. Okay? So, what then is the character non-nature? These are imputational characters. Sorry, this is again the Sutra Unraveling the Thought. Concerning that, what are the character non-natures of phenomena? Those which are imputational natures. Why it is thus. Those imputational characters are characters posited by names and terminology and do not subsist by their own character. Therefore, they are said to be character non-natures.
So that's thoroughly imputed.
No. Oh yeah, sorry, that is thoroughly imputed. Okay? So, for them, something like, okay, you have to understand, all phenomena can be subsumed within these three characters. Okay? So you have things that are arising due to causes and conditions. That is other-powered nature. Why they're called other-powered? They depend on other, means their causes, to arise. The sprout only arises in dependence upon the seed. Okay? So they're other-powered. Okay? And then we have thoroughly established nature, which is what we were talking about. The lack of duality between subject and object. That's why it's the mind-only school. There is no external world. Okay? For the mind-only school, although there are forms, the forms are not external, then casting its kind of aspect to our eye consciousness, but rather the eye consciousness apprehending the bowl and the bowl itself arise simultaneously from one imprint that is stored on the mind. Okay? Now, these thoroughly imputed natures would be something like the famous one being, lack of elephant in the room. Okay? Lack of elephant in the room is just an imputation by the mind. It hasn't arisen due to causes and conditions. It's permanent phenomena. And it's also not the ultimate nature of phenomena. Right? So that thoroughly imputed nature, right? Those imputational characters are characters posited by names and terminology and do not subsist by way of their own character. Therefore, they are character non-natures. Okay? So in the mind-only school, these imputational natures lack inherent existence. They are merely imputed by the mind. Okay? In the higher schools, in the Prasangika school, they say all phenomena lack inherent nature. Okay? The three natures. There's other-powered nature, thoroughly imputed nature, and thoroughly established nature.
Sorry, what did you say?
Thoroughly imputed.
And the second? Established.
Thoroughly imputed and thoroughly established. Okay. Now next. Okay, so now, thoroughly imputed nature, right? What is the entity, what is its entitylessness, but character non-nature? Okay? Now we have production non-nature, which is for other-powered phenomena. Okay? So again, Sutra Unraveling the Thought says, What are the production non-natures of phenomena? Question. Those which are other powered characters of phenomena. Why it is thus. Those other power characters arise through the force of other conditions and not by themselves. Therefore, they are said to be production non-nature. Okay? That's easy enough. Okay? Now we have ultimate non-nature, which is the entity-lessness of thoroughly established phenomena. Okay. So here, again, Sutra Unraveling the Thought says, what are ultimate non-natures? Those dependently arisen phenomena, which are natureless due to being natureless in terms of production, are also natureless due to being natureless in terms of the ultimate. Why? Paramartha samudgata. That which is an object of observation of purification in phenomena, I teach to be the ultimate. And other powered characters are not the object of observation of purification, therefore they are said to be ultimate non-natures. Oh, this is actually a bit of a problem. This is a little confusing in the sutra itself, because see, there are two modes of positing the ultimate non-nature. And the first is positing that other powered natures are without the nature of the ultimate. But actually, other powered natures are not the ultimate non-nature. That's a thoroughly established nature. So, anyway, yeah. But yet, it talks like that in the sutra. Okay? But anyway, it's there. So, but that's not the actual ultimate non-nature. Okay? Alright. So, furthermore, here, with respect to the second mode of positing the ultimate non-nature, the Sutra Unraveling of Thought says, moreover, that which is the thoroughly established character of phenomena is also called the ultimate non-nature. Why? Paramata samudgata. That which in phenomena is the selflessness of phenomena is called their non-nature. It is the ultimate, and the ultimate is distinguished just by this natureless of all phenomena. Therefore, it is called the ultimate non-nature. Okay? So, in other words, thoroughly established phenomena is what? The emptiness of phenomena, which is the ultimate nature of phenomena. Okay? Therefore, that is the ultimate non-nature. Okay.
So you said there is one more type in this.
Yeah, well no, that I kind of just glossed over. Other powered nature is kind of also called the ultimate non-nature because it is not the ultimate. Okay? But it's not the actual ultimate non-nature. Okay. So now, I'm on the top of page 14, and yeah, the second paragraph. So there's a few people who just came in. So even the people who came at the beginning of the session, they were thrown in the deep end of the pool. So now you even came after the half of the session was here. So just try to understand as much as you can. I'm sorry. But yeah. Okay. So in general, there are 5 kinds of emptiness. Okay? The absence of yogurt at the time of milk is the emptiness that is the non-existence at a prior time. The absence of milk at the time of yogurt is the emptiness, that is the non-existence, after having been destroyed. I'm on the top of page 14. The non-existence of a pot in a place where there is no bulbous thing is the emptiness of the utterly non-existent. The non-existence of a horse in an ox is the emptiness, that is, the non-existence of one thing in another. The non-existence of a human at the time of mistaking a cairn for a human is the emptiness of entity-ness. Okay? So, here, this presentation into the 5 kinds of emptiness is coming from, you know, the great Indian commentaries. But, you see, this is important to understand because even that word emptiness is fraught with some confusion because there's a thought of emptiness being like nothingness. Okay? So here we're distinguishing 5 different ways that we can talk about emptiness. Okay? So the first 2 have to do with you know, cause and effect. Right? Milk is the cause of yogurt. Right? So at the time of milk, yogurt hasn't arisen yet. Right? Okay? And when yogurt arises, for yogurt to arise, its cause has to disintegrate or no longer exist. So at the time of yogurt, there's also no milk. So that is, you know, non-existence at a prior time and non-existence after having been destroyed. Okay? So non-existence of pot in a place where there's no bulbous thing. So a flat-bodied, flat-bottomed, bulbous, you know, able to carry water is kind of the definition of a pot. So wherever there is no bulbous thing, there is no pot. Right? So the non-existence of a pot in the place where there's no bulbous thing is the emptiness of the utterly non-existent. Okay? So in a place where there's no bulbous thing, there's no pot, and it's not like the first 2, where it's talking about the time. Right? It's not because, you know, it disintegrates in moment 2. There's just no pot there, full stop. Okay?
Like, is it like the elephant?
What's that?
Like the elephant, which is not an human, same thing?
Sure.
Pot's not an human.
Yeah. In the place where there is no, and you have to find the definition of an elephant, right? The non-existence of a horse in an ox is the emptiness, that is the non-existence of one thing in another. So, you know, we would say a horse is empty of being an ox. Normal people don't talk like that, I know, but in the philosophical text, it will talk like that, right? Like sound is empty of being permanent. It just means it's not that, okay? So there automatically we see that, you know, emptiness doesn't have to be nothingness, okay? So what we're saying is, you know, the form is empty of being inherently existent. What does that mean? The form is not inherently existent. Okay? But that doesn't mean when we say form is empty, that then form doesn't exist. Right? Just like when we say a horse is empty of being an ox, that doesn't mean there's no horses. Right? It means there's a specific you know, way of the horse being established that is not an ox. Similarly with a form, when we say it's empty of inherent existence, it's not established in the mode of inherent existence. You know? Okay? Alright. The non-existence of a human at the time of mistaking a cairn, you know what a cairn is? It's a pile of rocks. Right? This is like quite famous in Tibet. Right? On mountain passes they put like the... So anyway, from a far distance, if they pile up rocks, you know, about, you know, whatever, a meter and whatever, 180 centimeters high, and you're far away, you might think, oh, there's a human over there. But then when you arrive, there's no human. Okay? So, the non-existence of a human at the time of mistaking a cairn for a human is the emptiness of entity-ness. Okay? So, this is similar to the emptiness of a horse and an ox. Okay? But the difference is this, right? See, the cairn is not a human, though due to certain conditions, it might appear as a human, right? Due to being far away, the light isn't good, you're not wearing your glasses, you could have an appearance and you can mistake it like that, right? But there's no, you know, human there, right? So this, okay, the mode of emptiness in this case is the last mode of emptiness. This is an essential point, okay? So here, you know, in the Prasangika school, although inherent existence doesn't exist, for us, non-Buddhas, everything that appears to us appears to be inherently existent. Okay? Now, the difference is, you see, in general, humans do exist, and if we mistake a cairn for a human, then although there's no cairn there, there is a human that we can point to somewhere else. Whereas in the case of emptiness, there appears to be inherent existence there, but there's no inherent existence anywhere. Okay? You understand? That's a essential point. But what is essential, you know, is that the cairn is not established as a human being in the same way other phenomena, although they appear to be inherently existent, they're not established in that way. Okay? Therefore, with respect to that, there are many terms such as empty by way of its own entity, empty of inherent existence, empty by way of its own character, and there are many examples such as an illusion, a dream, a mirage, a moon in water, and an emanation. I do not explain this at such length because I have nothing else to explain. Therefore, analyze from various perspectives using the example that appears easily to your mind. And when dependent arising appears as the meaning of emptiness, it is best. Until that point, you should create what seems like a fear, worrying that the majority of phenomena, such as forms, have become the object negated by reasoning. Otherwise, even though you say things like a pot does not truly exist, inherently exist, or exist by way of its own character, if the way in which it does not exist is not perceived, you cannot be counted among those who have analyzed emptiness. So, Tenzin Namjong, he lets us down right when we need him most. I'm joking. Okay. See, this last point is very, very, very important. Okay? Many of us, well, maybe not many of us, some of us, if you've come to some classes now, you might have the correct words. We can say, oh, all phenomena lack inherent existence, all phenomena are empty of inherent existence, and so forth. But if we do not accurately understand what is negated by reasoning, in other words, if we don't understand the object of negation, then there's no way we can refute it, right? So, what Tenzin Namjong is just kind of telling us to do, without giving us too much help with it, is, saying that these terms, empty by way of its own entity, empty of inherent existence, empty by way of its own character, okay? Those are all kind of equivalent terms that point to what is being refuted by reasoning, analyzing the ultimate, okay? And then there are many examples: an illusion, a dream, a mirage, a moon and water, and an emanation, okay? So those are the examples that kind of show us what emptiness is like. How does it show that? It's because the appearance and the reality don't accord, right? But then he just says, I'm not going to explain this at length. Fortunately, there are other texts that do explain it at some greater level of detail. But I would be a bit remiss if I used the Tenzin Namjong strategy and just said, good luck, guys. Right?
They've said 5 kinds of emptiness, and then he says, having explicitly applied the 4 modes of emptiness. Which one is he left out?
So hold on. First of all, you're jumping ahead of me.
No, we've reached that.
I haven't said those words though yet.
Yeah.
But the 4 modes of emptiness is: emptiness is form, form is emptiness, emptiness is not other form, form is not also other than emptiness. Those are the 4 modes of emptiness. There's 5 kinds of emptiness. Okay? But that's what we're still on. So don't read. Stop reading. Stop reading ahead. Okay. So then this point of the, what inherent existence means, that is extremely important. So he's saying, analyze from various perspectives using the example that appears easily to your mind. And when dependent arising appears as the meaning of emptiness, it is best. Until that point, one should create what seems like a fear, wherein that the majority of phenomena, such as form, have become the object negated by reason. Okay, so what does this mean? Lama Zopa Rinpoche, he often says, the actual nature of phenomena is so subtle that it's as if phenomena do not exist. Okay? So, some of you, we were talking about this right at the end of yesterday's lecture. But we're trying to avoid the 2 extremes of nihilism and eternalism. Eternalism being equivalent to inherent existence, and nihilism being that things don't exist at all. Right? But of those 2 extremes, we're firmly in the extreme of eternalism. Right? So although of the 2 extremes, the extreme of nihilism is worse, because if we then come to believe that phenomena do not exist at all, we'll then think that, I don't exist, you don't exist, virtue doesn't exist, non-virtue doesn't exist, and then our whole basis for accumulating virtue and abandoning non-virtue gets severely compromised. Right? So that's the more dangerous of the 2. But actually, for most of us, there's very little risk that we would become full-fledged nihilists. Right? Like the gentleman said last night, right? I think, therefore I am. Right? So we have a more natural tendency to say, no, wait a minute. Of course it's here. What are you telling me? You know? It's like, who are you going to believe? Me or your eyes, right? That statement. So Rinpoche is saying, you know, the actual mode of existence of phenomena is so subtle, it's like they don't exist. It means it's like, just you go to nihilism and you come back like 1 millimeter. And that's the actual mode of phenomena. Right? So, analyze with various perspectives, and then when dependent arising appears as the meaning of emptiness, then that is best. So I do want to just talk a little bit about dependent arising. Many of you have heard before, but it's good. It's good to think about this. Dependent arising, dependent is contrary to independent. And independent is what the meaning of inherent existence would be, right? So if something depends on other phenomena, it necessarily lacks independent existence. Okay? So then how do phenomena depend on other phenomena? Right? There are three modes. One is that everything that is arisen due to causes and conditions depends on its causes and conditions. All phenomena depend on its parts. Okay? So those are easy to understand, right? Yes? Okay. But the third and the most subtle form of dependent arising is that everything that exists in dependence on a basis of designation, a label, and a mind which affixes the label to the base. Okay? So the famous example that Lama Zopa Rinpoche gives is when we learn the alphabet. We have the 3 lines. Yeah? I usually do a kind of experiment with people, but let's just do it mentally, right? We have the 3 lines like this. Anyone who now knows the Roman character alphabet would identify those 3 lines as an A, right? But the fact that, see, if those 3 lines were inherently the A, then we wouldn't have to be taught the alphabet. Okay? What this shows is the 3 lines is not the A inherently, but rather is the basis of designation for the A. For the A to come about, we need then, someone needs to see that basis of designation, those 3 lines, have the label A, and then affix that A, the label, to those 3 lines. Then and only then does an A come into existence. Right? In fact, we can imagine many, centuries ago, a millennium ago, right? If the people, instead of labeling those 3 lines A, if they labeled it B, now all of us, when we see those 3 lines, would call it B. And if someone said that's an A, we would say, hey, we gotta teach you the alphabet better. Right? You understand? So what does this all show? Yes, the difference between the basis of designation and the object itself. Okay? So, one thing that now is helpful for us to think about is, see, we forget that process, right? When we're first learning the alphabet, we could be like, oh, which one is this again? had this own experience when I was learning like the Tibetan alphabet. You know, you try to learn 30 new characters and you're like, oh, which one is this again? Right? But then as you get more and more proficient, then it's just an immediate appearance of an A or a C or whatever from the side of the object. And so for us, we lose the ability to differentiate between the basis of designation and the object itself. And one of His Holiness, the Dalai Lama's gurus, Ling Rinpoche, the previous Ling Rinpoche, said that our inability to differentiate between the object of negation and the object, the basis of designation and the object is the object of negation. Sorry, I misspoke, right? Our inability to differentiate between the basis of designation, those three lines, and the A is the object of negation. That is, as they say, it's like ignorance projects the appearance of inherent existence from the side of the object. Okay? Or we can say all phenomena then are decorated. Lama Zopa talks like that. Decorated with the appearance of inherent existence. Okay? So, for our purposes, Rinpoche talks a lot like this, where he'll say, as we go through the world, then we should recall these examples, right? Think, oh, it's just an illusion. This is just an illusion. This is just like a mirage. It's just like a hallucination. Okay? This is merely labeled by the mind. Okay? So, in that way, it's actually not the full-fledged way to realize emptiness. But what we're trying to do is loosen our very firm grip. The very firm grip that ignorance has on us. Okay? Then, after a long period of time and reflection, we might have a little bit inching closer to actual realization. Okay? So for now, let me ask. This point with the three modes of dependent origination, you guys understand? Somewhat. Good. I'll take it.
I have a question. This way of explanation is as per Prasangika Madhyamika.
Yes.
The difference of the basis of designation and the object itself. That is posited by Prasangika Madhyamika.
Yeah. So, okay. You see, the three modes of dependent origination, okay? Let's say most, if not all, of the Buddhist schools will accept dependent on causing conditions. Okay? Then all will accept that things are dependent on their parts. Well, I don't want to say all. Because the lower schools, some of them posit that they're partless particles. Okay. Anyway, but this last one is the unique explanation of the Prasangika. Okay, so let's continue. Yeah? Thus, having explicitly applied the four modes of emptiness to the form aggregate, The purpose of merely saying in the same way, feeling, with respect to the other four aggregates, is that among the five aggregates, form is like a basis or vessel, whereas the latter four aggregates are primarily consciousness and are like the water that is supported in that vessel. Hence, just as when the supporting vessel is destroyed, the supported water is also destroyed. So when the form aggregate is understood to be empty, it is easy to understand that the consciousness aggregate and that are supported by that are also emptiness. That is the intention. Okay. So remember, what is it saying? Once we understand, it's like Arya Deva says in the 400 stanzas, the seer of one thing is the seer of all things. Okay? So what does this mean? Since inherent existence is refuted equally on all phenomena, if you're able to refute inherent existence in relation to one phenomena, you should be able to apply that same reasoning and logic to another phenomena. Actually, that's one of the tests to help you understand if you have the full-fledged realization of emptiness. Right? In brief, in order to put an end to common beings becoming attached to form and falling into the extreme of samsara, it teaches that form is emptiness. In order to put an end to some being attached to emptiness and falling to the extreme of peace, it teaches that emptiness is form. In order to put an end to some becoming attached to emptiness and falling to the extreme of peace, it teaches that emptiness is form. Let's see what that means. For example, if a blind person were to go down a narrow path that had thorns on the left and thorns on and a cliff on the right, if a sighted person were to say there are thorns, there is a danger of the person falling off the cliff. If he were to say there is a cliff, there is a danger of his falling into the thorns. In order that he not fall into either extreme, a middle path is taught. Those modes are the way to meditate on emptiness on the occasion of the path of accumulation and preparation. So what do we think about this? In order to put an end to some being attached to emptiness and falling to the extreme of peace, it teaches that emptiness is form.
Become attached to the concept of emptiness. So emptiness is also empty.
But if you were, if you had that thought that says falling to the extreme of peace.
What does the extreme of peace mean?
So in general, in the in the text, it talks about the extreme of peace being the Hinayana Nirvana, the lower Nirvana. Right? Whereas, right, we differentiated between full enlightenment and the lower personal liberation. So that personal liberation, one is blissed out in nirvana, and then just is quite, okay, and therefore doesn't engage in the works to benefit others in a, sublime way. Right?
So that is why it's a Mahayana.
Well, that's also true, but how does becoming to emptiness, in order to put an end to some becoming attached to emptiness and falling into the extreme of peace, it teaches that emptiness is form. If we normally talk about, the extreme of peace being solitary nirvana, okay, fine. But becoming attached to emptiness, does that mean holding the emptiness is truly existent?
Can't be.
Can be. Because if you hold that emptiness itself is inherently existent, then you can't realize emptiness. Because if you realize the emptiness of one phenomena, you realize it in relation to all phenomena, right? So then they could not fall into the extreme of peace because they couldn't even attain nirvana. Then the clue, what we have to put together is then the teaching that emptiness is form puts an end to some being attached to emptiness.
That means you're not absorbed in emptiness and think about others because you see the conventional truth, dependence.
What? No, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just not understanding you. Very strange.
It's emphasizing the conventional truth, is it?
See, you know, this example, right? There's the person on a narrow path, there's thorns on one side and a cliff on another side, right? So here, isn't that example like, you know, trying to find the between the two extremes of nihilism and eternalism, right? So, if you were just to give me that example, right? Form is emptiness. That would, you know, stop someone from falling into the extreme of, you know, eternalism. Because we get so attached to beautiful forms, right? Mine. So then we say, oh no, but that's empty. Okay, so, alright, I won't have so much attachment to this nice book cover. It's empty of inherent existence. Fine, great. But emptiness is form. I could then, you know, argue, then by talking about the conventional nature, it's not that then, you know, nothing exists, but by the way, oh, there are forms, right? But becoming attached to emptiness and falling into the extreme of peace, that's strange. So let's take a look. Huh? Dipti, are you laughing at me or with me? We're just talking about the form. I don't know, a vessel.
You must have to have a degree in philosophy.
Okay, okay. Very strange. Also, some being attached to emptiness would fall into the extreme of peace. To prevent some from, you know, having been attached to emptiness, then falling into the extreme of peace, it is then taught that emptiness is form. That's how I would translate it. And that's basically what the translation says, right?
You basically have to interpret extreme of peace as nihilism of some sort.
Yeah.
And not nirvana. It can't be nirvana. The extreme of peace is probably some kind of nihilism.
Yeah, but then that would be a very strange usage of, you know,
How can you think of peace as nihilism?
Yeah. Because everywhere else, the stream of peace is the lower nirvana. And nihilism is like the worst thing. You know? It's like a bad word. It's a 4-letter word in Buddhist philosophy. To call someone a nihilist, right? So for this author to then kind of use that very strange usage for the meaning of a stream of peace would be...
I think he's veering towards Sautantrika Madhyamika, that's the problem here. He's not an authentic Sangika Madhyamika.
Whoa. That would also would be very disrespectful. Anyway, let's no. Let's put that on the list of things. Call it a day.
So what did you say?
I said call it a day.
I said that.
Yeah.
No.
And so I'm like harumphing you. And what was the other thing I was going to ask my teacher? I'm going to ask my teacher about that. And then what was the other thing?
And definitive.
Yeah. Even though the qualification ultimate is not affixed explicitly to the object of negation, it is affixed implicitly, therefore it is of definitive meaning and is literal. So this is the problem you get when you choose commentaries that aren't written by Sarah J. Monks. Sorry.
What Geshe David Damdol says in his talks, and just saying, is that even if the author says something which is not according to your system or something, you have to interpret it in a way that it fits with reality, like.
Yeah, so how can we do that with this?
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do.
Remember, we try, but here I think it's very difficult. And you see this? My own boss. We're on camera here, and he she's bringing in the big guns. Geshe Damjo says this. You know? Right, Shanti?
Sorry.
I'm trying. And implicitly,
So
okay, although it's not
I'm
explicitly in her statement, she's saying that I'm not doing that, right?
No, I'm not saying. I'm saying it's good that you're doing that. I'm not saying that he's wrong outright.
She says it has an interpretive meaning and not a definitive meaning.
Okay. So,
And even this cliff thing, you have to be blind. It says he's a blind person.
yeah. That's all fine and good.
Huh?
That's all fine and good.
Sorry?
That is all fine and good that you have to be blind. That's not helping us solve this conundrum.
I'm not saying that, but even that statement, unless you're blind,
Yeah?
you can see the pond on one side and the cliff on the other side. So you walk in the middle. Try not to fall on both.
Yeah. So then?
That's why you're in the Madhyamika. You're in the middle.
Okay. So, okay, no problem. Anyway, that is maybe good for today, right? I'm going to open it up to questions, because, no, this next point here, it's now talking about the mode of meditation on the path of seeing. So then we're getting into all these other things with the 3 doors of emptiness. It's just a whole new can of worms. So I'm going to stop here, but I'm going to give you guys the opportunity to ask questions based on what was covered today. Or our newcomers, if you're just completely lost, you can also say that.
I have a question.
Okay, actually first let me do a little bit of advertising, okay? You know, usually one would try to get a kind of overview of the entire text and then delve deeply into these philosophical debates and so forth. So there's actually a really good commentary on the Heart Sutra that's like 50 minutes by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And guess where it is? YouTube. Huh? Yeah? So we will share that with you. Okay? Then these other points that have come out. It's tough. So don't worry. I mean, even I, before the break, I got confused. And so I had to kind of, do over, right? Wow. Perfect timing.
So this commentary was written in which language?
Tibetan.
Okay, so in this part, where it says extreme of peace.
Yeah, hold on.
It's okay, let him finish.
Yeah, this part where it says falling
Yeah.
to the extreme of peace.
Yeah.
What is it?
Shita. She is peace, ta is extreme. So there's no, that's why I was looking at the Tibetan to see if there's something funny going on. There's nothing funny going on with the translation. The funny business is in the text itself. Okay, so I have, hold on, I saw Archana first, so she'll have her question first. Yeah.
I did not understand that inability to distinguish between the basis of designation and the object is the object of negation.
Yeah. So, when we learn those 3 lines, right? First, we see 3 lines and we don't see an A. Then someone says, that's an A. Then for a little while, if we're learning all 26 letters in one day, right? We can, even though we see the A and we know the label, it's not an immediate thing. We have to be like, oh, which one is that again? Oh, that's the A. Then as we get more and more fluent, we just see A. Okay? So there is a differentiation between the base of designation, those 3 lines, but as we get more familiar with the label, that immediacy of the A appearing from the side of the 3 lines comes. And we can no longer distinguish between what is the A and what is the 3 lines. Okay? So the A is not the 3 lines, but wherever those 3 lines exist, the A exists. Right? Those 3 lines are the basis with which we label the A. Okay? But when then the A appears immediately, it appears to no longer be merely labeled by the mind on the basis of those 3 lines, but appears to be existing from its own side. Right? So, through the familiarization with the label and our innate ignorance, then that immediacy of the appearance is coming as it's, there on the page. Whereas the first time we saw those 3 lines, there's no appearance of an A from the page. Okay? So, we lose, it's like I said, the French, right? Je m'appelle Namjong, right? I call myself Namjong, right? Whereas we say, you know, I am Namjong, right? So really, if we want to be very, you know, precise, prasangikas, is this a cup? I don't know. Do we say, no, it's not a cup? We just call it a cup? Not sure. Or would a prasangika say, no, because the world, you know, the worldly convention calls this a cup, I also call it a cup. I'm not sure what a good prasangika would say. They might say both things. Right? Does that help? I'm not sure. Well, hold on. So let me get back. Because the real thing is then this statement. The ability, you know, the lack of ability to differentiate between the basis and the object. The basis of designation and the object is the object of negation.
Lama Zopa Rinpoche is not on the not from the object, but on the object.
Huh? What?
He says the object, what we actual convention truth is not from the basis of designation, but on the basis of designation. If we use those words, we can understand it properly.
Is this in relation to Achana's question?
Yeah, so it's not from the basis of designation, but it's labeled on the basis of designation.
What?
Object. The existent object.
I'm not seeing how that... that's true, but I'm not seeing how that's directly related. Because the point is, the ability, Ling Rinpoche had said, are not being able to differentiate between the object of designation, the base of designation and the object is the object of negation. Okay?
And once that is negated, we generate the ability to identify these two.
So that is good, Wangdu. I think then, after we realize emptiness, then it's like we become like the children with the alphabet, right? I'm not sure though.
So we have to unlearn the concepts to be able to.
Well, so that's then my question of what a good prasangika would do, right? Because at the same time, we don't want to fall into nihilism, right? And so then, you know, if you ask Chanakirti, is this a cup? I think he would say yes. I don't think he would say, no, that's not a cup, that's just what we call a cup. I think he would say, it's not inherently a cup, by worldly convention we call it a cup. But that's good enough for it to be a cup, right? It's an empty cup. Both of coffee and of inherent existence. So, thank you, Archana. That is as clear as I can make it right now. So Shanti, again, she's appealing, to my own, guru in my lecture. Which is good tactic, because I can't disagree. But let me understand your understanding of that distinction on the basic designation and from the basic designation.
Seeing that the basis of designation is seeing that the object itself, which exists, is can be found on the basis of designation. It's a mistaken concept, which is actually what has to be negated. That is inherent existence. That is what has to be negated.
Okay, and then from?
From means it's the what the object you have is in the basis of designation.
And that does exist.
That doesn't exist.
But what does exist?
On means you're labeling it on the object. The object is seeing that the object itself is somehow coming from the basis of designation, can be found on the basis of designation, or is coming from the basis of designation.
Okay, hold on. This makes it very clear. We have the object coming from the basis of designation.
Yes.
That exists or not?
No.
The object is on the basis of designation?
No, you label it on the basis of designation. Something that's put on the basis of designation is how it actually exists. Something that's imputed on the basis of designation. That doesn't come from the object, it's the basis of designation itself.
So that means that the true designation of the basis of designation has to be negated. The true existence.
Finding the object in the basis of designation is the object of negation. That is same as saying inherent existence. That's how I understood it. I may be wrong.
Okay. So we had some other questions, Subhashini.
Can I also attempt Archana's question before I start mine? Yes or no?
I'll give you until 1:15. Yeah, I'm giving you 3 minutes. Okay? Which includes my answer to whatever you're going to say. So you can use that time as you will.
Okay.
Prioritize.
Okay. Now, this Heart Sutra, being a Mahayana Sutra,
Yes.
the paragraph where Shariputra, therefore, because there is no attainment,
Whoa. Okay.
bodhisattvas rely on and dwell in the perfection of wisdom, the mind without obscuration and without fear. Having completely passed beyond error, they reach the end point of nirvana. The next sentence then says, all the Buddhas who dwell in the 3 times also manifestly completely awaken once a possible perfect, complete enlightenment in reliance on the perfection of wisdom. So here the sentence before that says the end point is nirvana. While the next sentence is a little different in the sense there they bring in the concept of enlightenment. And since the motivation for both are different, how come they come within the same paragraph?
Okay. First of all, we haven't gotten to there in the commentary yet. So, you're jumping the gun, just like Avan did. But we haven't reached that part in the text yet. But I'll answer. Okay? So, nirvana, there's different kinds of nirvana, right? There is a lower nirvana, right? And then there's what is called non-abiding nirvana. The Buddha has attained nirvana, right? The Buddha has attained non-abiding nirvana. So he's not abiding in the mere peace of individual liberation, but is abiding in full enlightenment. So we can say they reach the end point of nirvana means non-abiding nirvana. which is full enlightenment.
It's non-abiding.
They move from after having.
So here we talk about abiding in the two extremes, right? There's the extreme of peace, which is the peace of individual liberation. So the Buddhas, because of their compassion, do not abide in the extreme of peace, nor do they abide in the extreme of existence or samsara, because they've abandoned the afflictive emotions. Okay? So what is the next sentence?
All the Buddhas three times also meant
Who dwell 3 times?
completely-
Yeah, so then?
completely awakened in the unsurpassed level of perfect complete enlightenment.
Okay, so what's the question?
Here they are talking about complete enlightenment
Yeah,
in reliance on the perfection of wisdom.
right. In reliance on the wisdom, directly realizing emptiness, conjoined with bodhicitta, one attains full enlightenment.
There is mention of bodhicitta here.
The perfection of wisdom is what?
Wisdom realizing emptiness.
Is that your final answer?
So
Is that your final answer?
maybe there's a twist to the tale.
There is a big twist. Remember, for something to be the perfection of wisdom, it has to be conjoined with bodhicitta. So actually, the definition of the perfection of wisdom is a mind directly realizing emptiness, conjoined with bodhicitta. So it's not just, any kind of realization of emptiness, but direct realization of emptiness, and not any direct realization of emptiness, but conjoined with bodhicitta.
But when the three aspects of the path are discussed, enunciating bodhicitta and wisdom realizing emptiness, does that mean 2 and 3 get to this part of the path? When we say perfection of wisdom? Is it conjoined at that point?
At which point?
When this term is used, perfection of wisdom, it means
Okay, let me cut you off. By the way, your 3 minutes are done, but any perfection, okay, we have practices of generosity, practices of patience, practices of ethical discipline and so forth, but they're not necessarily perfections. So what makes something a perfection is its being conjoined with bodhicitta. Okay? So in the 3 principal aspects of the path, when they say the correct view of emptiness, okay, the correct view of emptiness doesn't necessarily have to be conjoined with bodhicitta, right? A Hinayana arhat has the correct view of emptiness, but doesn't have bodhicitta, therefore doesn't have the perfection of wisdom. Okay, next. Ravi, I saw you first. I saw him first. Yeah.
This is going back to letter A. Can I ask a question before back to that?
This is going back to
The
what other day?
the object of the 3 lines.
Oh, the letter A. Sorry, I thought you said the other day. I was like, what?
Can I ask a question regarding that?
Yes.
So actually, you say the object of 3 lines, which is actually not the letter A, is actually designated as a truly existent object A by the mind. And that truly that which is not truly existing object of the three lines as A, which is designated as A, that has to be negated. Is that what it means?
Okay, so I'm not going to say that the letter A is designated as a truly existent A. No. Those three lines are designated as A, and then our ignorance projects true existence on top of it.
Oh, it projects the true existence on top.
Yeah. We don't, I mean, see, the innate ignorance is present in all beings who haven't attained nirvana or are not eighth ground bodhisattvas, right? So even cows have innate ignorance. They're not thinking this is truly existent, right? So you can't say that they're, that it's designated, right? It's not designated as truly existent, because if it were designated as truly existent, then you couldn't make sense of a conventionally existent A. Right. Okay, so then what's the rest of your question?
No, I got the answer is that the ignorance, it is the ignorance projecting.
Yeah.
I got the answer from it.
Yeah. Now, there are some people who are in, some philosophical tenets that would hold that the A is inherently existent, right? But I'm talking about the beginning, when we're learning the alphabet, unless you have a very strange teacher, the teacher just says, this is A, this is inherently existent A, right? Okay, you sir.
So today and yesterday you have been saying the sentence, I think therefore I am, quite a few times.
Oh.
And I just wonder whether you could quickly elaborate on what concept you relate that to.
Okay. So let's go back a little bit into Western philosophy, right? So, it was Descartes who said that, yeah? Cogito ergo sum, right? And there's a thought experiment of skepticism, as it plays out. Skepticism would hold, okay, is there really a cup here? Or could it just be, Descartes was saying, I could just be under the spell of some evil demon, who's made me to think there's all these appearances. But actually, I don't know if there's an actual cup on the table. But, keep going with that skepticism. Well, at the root of it, even if I am being tricked by an evil demon, someone is being tricked by an evil demon. So, although you can maybe be skeptical of everything else, the fact that I am existent, because there has to be someone who is being tricked, that proves that at least I am. Okay? You understand? So what I was saying is, okay, we don't take all of that on, but when we talk about conventional reality and ultimate reality, okay, we can be skeptical of, a lot, and we should be. But conventionally speaking, I exist. Okay? That is not going to be refuted, right? Because, well, similar to Descartes, we can say, I am thinking, right? Therefore, I am experiencing something. That no one can refute. Where we go further is this. Now here, I was using it as an example to kind of show the gap between conventional reality and ultimate reality. Conventionally speaking, I exist. But then when we, and if we leave it at that, we can get along fine, right? I'm going out to lunch. Everything in the normal world, can you give me that pen? Okay? I will, I'll see you tomorrow at whatever, the restaurant. Okay? Conventionally speaking, we can get along fine in the world. But if we are a little bit unsatisfied with that explanation and we say, okay, given that you exist, how do you exist? Do you exist, how do you say, independently, inherently, dependently, objectively, subjectively, and we inquire into the mode or the way that phenomena exist, then that is the scope of ultimate nature. Right? Understand?
Yeah, I just think that there's a difference between what Descartes' skepticism says and the concept of conventional reality that we have, because actually what Descartes is saying is he's just being skeptic. He's doubting what we actually see. So he's just coming to the solution that we cannot say anything about how the world actually is. Whereas your concept of conventional reality goes to the idea of ultimate reality, right? Where you actually say that the emptiness and so on actually is how the world is.
Right. So, okay. But I think Descartes would say that the person does exist. He does exist, right?
Yeah, but he has his skepticism first.
Yeah.
And then what he does, like, I mean, we're talking about the third meditation now, I think that's the text, where he goes to cogito ergo sum, and then from there on, he reasons that everything is actually existing. So he's denying the skepticism that he had earlier.
Right. So, okay. Let me then just forget I said anything about Descartes, if that helps. Okay. Conventional reality is what someone untrained in philosophy would hold to be existent. Okay. So the normal things that we would hold to be existing, the cups, tables, chairs, those exist conventionally. And then ultimate reality will inquire into how those phenomena exist. Okay? If we then come to, maybe that's it for now. Okay? You understand?
Yeah, I think I don't really understand the connection to Descartes.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. Forget it.
Yeah.
Forget it. Yeah. Yeah. Why I was using that is, we need to, prevent ourselves from falling into nihilism, which would then refute the existence of things that are actually existent. Right?
Okay. So you're using basically Descartes' idea to prevent yourself from going into nihilism and to...
we don't have to use it. Someone last night brought that up first. Right? So, I was like using their own background to illustrate something. But if you don't find it useful, or if you find it that it is, different in, real ways, then just forget it. Yeah, you don't have to. Okay, anything else? Yes?
So, yesterday you were saying that today you talk about the also part. Why is the also there? And the sentence regarding also in the commentary. But I didn't understand how the also can what role it has to play in that teaching.
Yeah. Well, yes, I did intend to talk about that today, but we're out of time. That is a big topic. In other commentaries, it talks about the also being not only the five aggregates, but also the constituents and sense powers, all those things. Okay, that is a lot easier philosophically to assert. Okay? Yes?
So is there a book or some place where we can learn about these different schools, like 4 schools, because it's always confusing.
Yes. Cutting through appearances. That'd be quite good. I mean, any book on Buddhist tenets. So there's also, I think, a book by Craig Preston, or I'm not sure, but just look up Buddhist tenets. Cutting through appearances is there. A very detailed treatment is in Maps of the Profound. It's been probably 1,000 pages, but Cutting Through Appearances will be a shorter one. In my opinion, I think that would be a good topic for this center to do a class on that. However, you guys asked me to teach something and I do my best. So you guys haven't asked me to do that. You asked me to teach the Heart Sutra.
Maybe you can make that as one of the supplementary things so we can have that to follow as well, please, because it is very hard.
Yeah.
I've asked you, Namjong.
Okay. Yeah.
Yesterday you said that everything is not a projection. So what is not a projection? If everything is not just a projection, what is not just projection?
Okay, so it's like this, right? If we say everything is a projection, we would fall into nihilism. If we say everything is a hallucination, everything is a dream, everything is an illusion, right? So that's why we say everything is like a dream. Everything is like an illusion. Now, this thing with projection, it depends on what appears to your mind when I say that word, right? Because validly we can say that, ignorance is what projects the appearance of true existence, right? But, here the language is a bit confusing because if I don't know, someone were to say, "Oh, Namjong, why are you so mad at me?" Like, what? Oh, you're mad at me because, I made all those sandwiches and you didn't eat one. Right? Right? Then I'd say, oh, no. That's just your projection. You're just projecting that I'm angry at you. There's no,
Basis.
there's no basis. It's not true. Right? That's one, in our normal use of the word, that is completely false. Right? So if we say everything is a projection, we would fall into nihilism, right? But the other sense of the word of ignorance projecting the appearance of true existence, that is happening. The true existence doesn't exist, but the underlying conventional phenomena does. So again, what exists conventionally is everything that is asserted by the world untrained in philosophical tenets. What exists ultimately? Emptiness. Okay, let's leave it at that. So we'll dedicate the merits for the temporary and ultimate benefit of all sentient beings. May all sentient beings quickly be freed from all their suffering and abide in the peerless happiness of full enlightenment. Dedicated for the long lives of the spiritual friends, particularly His Holiness Lama Zopa Rinpoche. We also dedicate the merit for the flourishing of the Buddha Dharma, all the centers and projects designed to promote and preserve the Dharma, particularly Ling. May they have all the required conditions to be successful in their activities to benefit sentient beings.